Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Osrani, Cabinet, and members of the audience. Thank you for being here tonight. I am Jolie Critchfield.
And I'm Dr. Amy Murray. Mike Matos is a nationally renowned education researcher, and we're starting our slides tonight with national statistics from Mike Matos. Every 26 seconds, a student drops out of school. Over 1 million students drop out of school every year. On average, a high school dropout earns $20,000 less annually. That is $10,000 less than a high school graduate and over $36,000 less than a college graduate. The United States leads the world in incarceration rates, surpassing China and Russia, and over 80% of the incarcerated population are high school dropouts. 85% of all youth in the juvenile justice system are functionally illiterate. High school dropouts are 63 times more likely to be incarcerated than college graduates. 3 out of the 5 people in the United States prisons can't read. 70% of those will return to prison. A high school dropout will cost the United States taxpayers $292,000 over the course of his or her life. School dropouts cost the United States $240 billion annually in social service expenditures and lost tax revenues. Who are we in MJUSD? Now that we've seen what the numbers look like on the national level, let's look at our local level data in Marysville, starting with our student demographics. We need to know our Marysville demographic information so that we can better serve our students and families. Notice the numbers of students who are identified as foster youth, homeless, or on an IEP.
Here are the crime statistics for Yuba County. Red arrows point to aggravated assault and violent crimes. Many kids who were home during COVID experienced domestic violence in the home or crime in their neighborhoods.
The 5-year graduation rate in MJUSD is 88.2%, which is close to the state rate of 90.1%. However, about 11.8% of our MJUSD students are not graduating, so we have a lot of work to do.
Dr. Becky Bailey states a disconnected child is a dangerous child. Unfortunately, students who don't have a school safety net are often caught by gangs or the judicial system. This drawing represents that all too often happens when we are unable to get kids connected to school.
When we look at the 11.8% of students who don't graduate, another risk factor is mental health. Just this year, we had over 215 risk assessments completed on MJUSD school grounds. These are students who have had suicidal thoughts. And these statistics from kidsdata.org show how many children in Yuba County, 110 in the year 2020, have been hospitalized for mental health issues. Notice that the numbers continue to rise year after year.
The number of red boxes on this slide show MJUSD students who are at risk per statistics provided by the Yuba County Office of Education. Our homeless and foster youth are particularly vulnerable, as shown by academic scores, chronic absenteeism, and graduation rates. This is why we track attendance data using our RAW-WE attendance program. When we know which students are missing school, we can intervene quickly by reaching out to the home.
All of this data that we presented underscores why we need to implement multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS and MJUSD. In an MTSS framework, we support students' behavior and academics. We emphasize the importance of Tier 1 support, which is preventative and proactive. For example, all schools are developing PBIS programs this year as part of Tier 1. Students who need more support in Tiers 2 and 3 are also able to access supports, such as therapy, as needed. As needed is a key concept in understanding the MTSS structure. For example, students who are learning to read will need various levels of support. Some students will need more support, and some will need less. Just as students need more support with reading, some students need more emotional support. The MTSS framework challenges us to meet students' emotional needs. This is why we have 104 students who are receiving therapy through a partnership with Wellness Together. These are students who have been identified by school psychologists as having the highest level of need in Tier 3.
All too often, our students are not at school because of trauma, which impacts brain states. We call the red brain the survival brain. Research shows that learning cannot happen when the brain is in survival mode. That's why we are introducing conscious discipline classes in MJUSD. Decades of research shows that we have to address the emotional state as a precondition to learning. This is why we have posters as reminders to staff and students that we can't learn in the red brain. That is why we need tools such as breathing and co regulation to get back to that state of calm, to access the green brain, the executive state for optimal learning.
Our intermediate school students are using the Wayfinder SEL curriculum this year, and this video shows you how students are using Wayfinder at McKinney.
Wayfinder makes me feel empowered and that I could set my mind to anything because you get somebody's listening to your voice.
A lot of students just come in with a smile on their face when in reality they internally are struggling.
Before Wayfinder, it was definitely difficult to see who needed the extra time, who I needed to check in with, and who I needed to develop more of a relationship with. But with using Wayfinder, that's completely eliminated that problem.
We walk into class, we take our Chromebooks, we go onto the Wayfinder program website.
Wayfinder has changed the way that I feel about myself because it makes me more aware of my mental state. I'm like, okay, how am I doing personally?
What I get from the information on Wayfinder is the ability to kind of see through the smiling faces that walk in my classroom.
Wayfinder does a great job at recommending certain activities for the needs of each class. I really enjoy the lessons where students can get up and interact and talk to each other and kind of build that community, build that relationship in the classroom.
When my teacher usually checks up on me, I feel appreciated because sometimes I do feel a little bit low, and when I know someone can kind of see, it makes me feel better.
The biggest thing I like about Wayfinder is it gives you real-time data. It gives you data I can look at, I can analyze, I can have students complete a lesson, I can look at the lessons, which has given me a lot of great insight into the students, how they're feeling, how they're doing social and emotional.
The Wayfinder app kind of allows me to see how they're feeling and easily respond to their needs and their wants from me as their teacher.
Because we have identified so many needs, we have to be strategic with how we organize our student support system in order to leverage our resources most effectively. This year, we've organized a system of behavior supports that include SEL lessons at Tier 1, student study team meetings at Tier 2, and Wellness Together therapy at Tier 3, among other supports.
We are monitoring the impact of our MTSS efforts to support SEL and behavior through updating systems such as Beyond SST and processes such as SARB, which are being implemented at school sites across the districts. Students who have struggled with behavior receive Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports.
PBIS, or Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, is an approach that we're using to create positive school culture that provides a foundation for our MTSS efforts this year. We're thrilled that 7 of our schools have applied for awards recognition through the California PBIS Coalition. Behind the scenes, we have a team of people who champion our kids. You may not know that our outreach consultants have made over 900 plus family contacts and initiated the SST process for 500 students, or that counselors have conducted 215 suicide assessments and run over 65 small group counseling circles.
When students are not getting to school, we also conduct home visits. We have logged over 500 home visits just this school year. The Student Attendance Review Board is a Tier 3 support. SARB connects MJUSD families with agencies and community partners such as Health and Human Services, law enforcement, victim witness, behavioral health, probation, child protective services, and the district attorney's office. At SARB, the Honorable Judge Givens works hard to motivate students and families to go to school. This picture shows a student who is getting a certificate for improved attendance. Out of the 427 MJUSD SARB cases, 65 cases have made it to court, and 63 of those students have received certificates for improved attendance.
The best thing about working at MJUSD is that we can make a difference. All of these MTSS efforts are underway, addressing adult and student behavior first, so that all of our MJUSD schools can realize the vision of academic achievement and success for all.
The hardest part about working in MJUSD is that we need to make a difference every single day.
The number of red boxes in this slide show MJUSD students who are at risk, per statistics provided by the Yuba County Office of Education. Our homeless and foster youth are particularly vulnerable, as shown by academic scores, chronic absenteeism, and graduation rates. This is why we track attendance data using our RAWE program. When we know which students are chronically missing school, we can intervene quickly by reaching out to the home.